So welcome back to this next lesson. So in this lesson we're going to really be looking at how we can add some enemies. In the previous lesson we got our level 2, so it was playable, we put our rewards in. So now what we're going to do is going to go back to level 1 and we're going to start adding some enemies. So we're going to make the game a little bit more challenging. So let's go to level 1. Okay, so here we are. So the first thing we're going to do is just find an enemy. So we're going to go to our sprites. So we're going to choose from the library. You could incorporate this into an art lesson. You can get the kids to come up with their own sprites and then design something that they can put themselves into the library. So then they would upload a sprite from a file and click on this button and then they can put their own sprite in. We're going to put one from the library, so I'm going to go into the library and we're going to go and find a sprite. So I'm going to go into fantasy and let's have a look. I'm going to take this ghost here. We're going to run this ghost and we're going to click OK. So there we go, there's our ghost. I want to put the ghost in my maze somewhere where it's going to make my game a little bit harder. So let's first of all reduce the size. And then let's move it to a position. We need to just go down just a little bit more. Okay, so there's my ghost. And I need to put it into a position where I know it's going to be a bit of a struggle for my cat to get past. So let's put it there. First of all, we've got to make sure that the ghost appears when it needs to appear. So let's go to events. So when this is clicked, we want our ghost to disappear. So let's go to looks and hide it. When the backdrop switches to level 2, we want our ghost to disappear. So hide it. We go to events. When the backdrop switches to level 1, we want it to show. When the backdrop switches to title screen, we want it to hide. When the backdrop switches to time's up screen, we also want it to hide. Now, one thing we haven't looked at the moment is our game over screen, so we can put that one in as well. When it goes to our game over screen, we also want it to hide. If you right click on your coding area here, you can clean things up a little bit. And you've also got this option of a comment, so you can add comments to this area if you want somebody in the future to look at your code and wonder what you're doing. That's a good idea if you're building this game and somebody else is going to continue with it. So we've set up our ghost. So when we press play, it doesn't appear on any of the screens. It only appears in level 1. Now this is the one that we want to deal with. When our backdrop switches to level 1, we want it to show, but we also want it to appear in this position. So let's go to motion and we can go to -x 63 88. So that's where it's going to appear. Now what would be really great is if we can get the ghost to travel along a path. Now first of all, let's see if there's a costume for the ghost. So let's click on costumes and it does actually have another costume. So what we can do is we can change this costume. So we did this with the cat at the very beginning. So let's go to control and then we want to do a forever loop. And we go to looks, we want to go to the next costume. Now if we play now, it's a bit fast like we did with the cat. So let's put a pause in there. So we need to go to control and then we're going to wait. Let's say wait 0.5 seconds. And now let's see what happens with our ghost. There we go. Our ghost is flying around there. Okay, so let's stop the game. So now what I want to do, I want to get the ghost to move along this path here. The first way we're going to do this is we're going to create another switch here. So when we go to the events, we're just going to put another one in here. When it switches to level 1, we want it to do things. Okay. So first of all, we want to go to control and we're going to say forever All right, we're going to put a forever loop is because we want this to go back and forth forever until the game finishes. And then we want our ghost to move. So we're going to move it, let's say 5 steps for now. Okay, so we're going to move it 5 steps. All right. Now, when we play this, let's see what happens. There goes our ghost. Okay, so there is a problem there. It's going through the walls. We don't want it to do that. Okay, so then we have to go back to the way we did things with our cat when it hits the walls. So what we want to do is when it hits the wall, we want it to turn back. Let's go to control and let's put an if into here. So if it is touching, so let's go to sensing. If it's touching a color, and the color is going to be, so we click on the color and then we're going to click on the blue. So let's click on blue here. Okay, the color of our wall. When it touches the color, we want the ghost to turn around. And we want to turn it by 180 degrees. So here's a teaching moment here. How many degrees do we need to turn something so it goes in the opposite direction? So we can use either of these. So we're going to put this one in and I'm going to say 180 degrees. Okay, so let's have a look and see what happens now. Now what's happened is our ghost is flipped itself upside down. So we need to make sure that we change that. So if you remember way back in lesson 1 or 2, when you click on the little eye here, you have this option to change the rotation style. At the moment it's set to spin, so that's why it's turning upside down. We just want it to flip. So we're going to click on this one here and then we can go back. All right, and now when we play our game, our ghost goes back and forth. Now, depending on how quick you want that ghost to go, we can change the speed. Now, to change the speed, we can just change the movement here. So if we go to 10 and then play it, our ghost has got a lot quicker. Okay, but I think that's a bit too fast. So let's change it back to 5, and I think that's a nice speed now. We want our cat to disappear when the ghost eats the cat. So let's stop the game. What we now need to do is really bring in another variable. So we're going to go to data and we're going to create a new variable. So let's click on make variable and this is going to be called lives. And click OK. So we now have a new variable called lives. So let's put the lives variable in the correct place. All right. Now, what we need to do is now set our lives variable so it appears and disappears. Because if we play this, right at the beginning, our lives has appeared there. So we need to go back and change all that now. Let's go over to our backdrops and let's set our variable. When the flag is clicked, we want to hide our variable. Now what I'd like to do is show you a different method of actually hiding the variables, because in the past what we've done is we've gone into the different characters and we've hidden the variables from the characters. But I'd like to do it from the backdrop now. So let's create, when the backdrop switches to level 1, we want to show the variable. When the backdrop switches to level 2, we want to show the variable of lives. When the backdrop switches to time's up, we want to hide the variable. When the backdrop switches to the title screen, we want to hide the variable. So these are different ways in which you can do that. There's one more that we can do. When the backdrop switches to game over screen, we want to hide the variable. So now when we play the game, the lives is missing. And there we go. We've got lives. And if we wait now and we go back to our timer and then we go to our time's up screen, there you go, it's missing again. Press the spacebar to play again. So one other thing that we need to do here, when the game starts, we want to set the lives variable to the number of lives that we want. So let's set the number of lives when the game starts. And let's set this to 5 for now and see how that works. So now we can run our game and we'll see here our lives is set to 5. Okay. Now let's go back to our ghost. Here's our ghost. Let's stop the game. Now, when our cat hits our ghost, what do we want to happen? Well, we want the cat to die and we want the lives to be reduced by 1. So let's have a look and see how we can do that. So in order to do this, we now need to go back to our level 1 cat. So let's scroll up. So let's click on our level 1 cat. Now we've got quite a lot of code in here already. So let's just scroll down. And over here that we want to add a new clause in here. So if the cat is touching, so let's add a control. So we want another if statement and let's add it under here. Okay. If in the sensing, if it's touching the ghost, all right, so ghost 2, or one thing we didn't do was change the name of our ghost. Let's do that in a second. Actually, let's do that now. So let's go down to our ghost and we must change our name. So let's call this ghost 1, or let's call this level 1 ghost 1. There we go. Let's go back to our level 1 cat, scroll down, and now we can say, all right, if it's touching the level 1 ghost, here it is. Okay, what do we want it to do? Well, we want the cat to disappear. Let's go to looks and then we can hide the cat. All right, let's play a sound as well. All right, so let's play the sound. Let's put that before we hide it. And let's say meow. Okay, so the cat's going to be meow when it hits the ghost. Okay, and then we want to change our data. All right, so we want to change our lives -1. So we want to go to our lives and we want to change it by -1 because we've lost a life. Okay, then what we want to do is say if the lives are greater than 0, if the lives are greater than 0, then we want the cat to reappear. If the lives are 0, we want it to go to the game over screen. So let's do that. So let's go to our control. If something happens, then do this. Otherwise, we want it to do this. We want an if-else statement in there. So let's put that in here. If operators, if something is equal to something, so let's put that one in. If, then data, if lives is equal to 0, then we want to go to the game over screen. So let's go to looks and we want to switch to the game over backdrop. Okay, so let's switch over to that. Otherwise, what are we going to do? Well, we want the cat to go back to the position that it started. So the starting position is here, 42,164. So we can go to our motion and we can put that in here, and then it's set to 42,164 already. So let's try that. Let's play the game, press the space bar, and let's go and die. So there's a problem here. It's completely disappeared. So what we didn't do was actually show the cat again. So what we need to do is go back to looks and then click on show. So we show it and then we can go back to our starting position. So let's try this again. There we go. And then let's see what happens when we get to 0. And there's our game over screen. Now, there's a few things we need to do there with our game over screen, but we're going to concentrate that on our next lesson. So let's close this, start again, and go back to our game. Right, so that's our ghost 1. So that's a simple ghost where we're getting our ghost to go left and right. Now, what would be really great is by having an enemy that really moves around the screen. Now, with our second enemy, we want the enemy to avoid all the walls. We want it to go through the walls. We want it to be a ghost that goes through the walls. So let's add a new sprite. So we're going to go to the sprites. We're going to go to fantasy and let's add a new sprite. So we've got ghost 2 here and we've got ghoul. So let's choose the ghoul and then choose the ghoul here and let's just reduce the size of this ghoul. And I'm going to make it that big, okay? And let's put it somewhere to start with. So let's put it in this corner here. There we go, like that. Rather than doing all the code again, what we can do is we can take all the code from our first ghoul and just drag it in. So let's drag that in, this one. Go back to our ghoul. If we right click and clean up. Okay, so there's our code. I've just cleaned up the screen just a little bit. Okay, so now there's certain things we don't want here, all right? because we want the ghost to travel around the screen, we don't need any of this inside. So I'm just going to drag all of that out at the moment. We also want to change the position. So we've set the position down here. Let's change that position to what it is now. So it's 203 and minus 143, minus 143. Okay, so now we've got a ghost that's going to move. So let's play the game. All right, now it's going to go straight off the screen. We want our ghost to chase the cat. We're going to point our ghost towards our cat. So we need to click the drop down menu and level 1 cat. So now when we run it, it's going to go straight to our cat. There it goes, straight to our cat to grab the cat. So let's make this a little bit easier. So let's change the speed to maybe 2. Now when the ghost gets the cat, we want the cat to die and the level to go down again. So let's play this. So now when we move our cat around, the ghoul is going to chase our cat around, as you can see. Okay, so what we want to do is when that ghoul catches the cat, we want the cat to die. So let's go to our level 1 cat again. And let's just add some code. So all of this is what we really need. We can duplicate this code by right-clicking and duplicating. So there is our duplicate code. So we need to grab that code. We're going to put that in here like so. All right. So now when it's touching the ghoul, all right. So when it's touching the ghoul, we're going to play the sound. We're going to lose a life. If the lives equals 0, we're going to go to the game over screen. Otherwise, the cat is going to go back to its original position. So let's play the game and see what happens. Here comes the ghoul. It's chasing me, and then I've died. And I've died 5 times. So it's quite difficult at the moment. So let's go back to the ghoul. So we can click on the ghoul, and maybe we need to change that to 1 just to make it a little bit easier. And what we could also do is reduce the size of the ghoul. So I'm just going to reduce the size of the ghoul to make it just a little bit more simple. Okay, and then let's play that again. Right, here comes the ghoul. It's chasing me. So I've got a bit of time at the moment. Oh, I've died with the other ghoul. There we go. Now, this is a bit difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something else in here. So if the ghoul touches an apple, then I want the ghoul to go back to its original position. This is a way the player can strategically get the ghoul to go back to its original position. We're in the ghoul at the moment. Let's do that. So what we want to do is we want to grab an if statement here. Let's put the if in there. If it's doing something, so if it is touching one of the apples, then we want it to go back to its original position. So let's go to sensing. If it's touching apple 1, then we want it to make a sound. Now we've got here a male scream, so let's put that in. And we want it to go back to its original position. So that would be 203 minus 143. So 203 minus 143. Okay, but the problem is that's only for apple 1. So we need to duplicate that for every single apple. So that's easy enough to do. So we can right click on the if, duplicate, stick that underneath, change that to apple 2 and do the same for all of the apples. So again, duplicate apple 3. And I'm just going to do this quickly for you. Okay, so there we go. So now when our ghoul hits the apple, it will go back to the beginning point for that ghoul. So let's play the game. Let's see what happens. So I want to strategically move the ghoul to the apple here. There we go. He's gone back to the apple, so I can have a bit more time. Maybe what I need to do is maybe change the position, the starting position of the ghoul. So I'm going to change the starting position of the ghoul. I'm going to change him over here. So minus 89 to minus 157. So the reason I'm doing that is because the position I put him in is a crucial position for me to get to the end. So I don't want to make it too hard that I can't do it. So then I need to make sure that I'm changing these as well. So minus 89 minus 157, and so on and so forth for the rest of them. Okay, so let's play the game again, see what happens. And now I have an apple that's in the wrong place. So I'm going to move this apple around. So let's see, find out what apple that is. So it's this apple here, which is apple 6. So I'm going to move this one to a different position. Let's move it to here. There we go. So let's go into that particular apple. Okay, and just change the position there to 216 minus 85. Okay, so let's play it again. Okay, so there's my ghoul. It's on its way. It's come and eat me. Right, oh, there we go. Remembering I've got a timer here as well. Okay, so what you need to do is actually work with your game and see if you can make it not too difficult, but also not too easy for your player. Now, I think I've made it just a little bit too difficult for my player, but what you need to consider is that one of my objects of the game is to get the apples as well. So as soon as all the apples have disappeared, then my ghoul is going to come and chase me. So there's a strategic element to this particular game. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson. In the next lesson, we're just going to be starting to tidy things up. We're going to look at level 2 and put some enemies in level 2. We're going to go to the game over screen, and we're just going to tidy a few things up.
Thanks for watching. Please click the like button and please subscribe to this channel for more educational technology videos. Until next time, goodbye.